When the sun rises after a long, heavy night, it does not pause to ask whether the world is ready for its warmth. It does not wonder who will appreciate its light or who will turn away from it. It simply rises because rising is its nature. In the same way, there comes a moment in our lives when we must learn to rise without waiting for the approval of others. We must learn to move without waiting for someone else to clap for us. And we must learn with grace, courage, and a steady heart to stop thinking too much about anyone who has not earned the privilege of living in our mind. You see, the mind is a sacred space, a place where dreams are born, where memories sleep, where strength is molded. But sometimes we allow that sacred space to become crowded with the echoes of other people's opinions, expectations, disappointments, and contradictions. We sit up at night turning over their words like stones in our hands, examining every angle, trying to understand what they meant, why they said it, why they acted that way. And in that endless analysis, in that restless examination, we lose a piece of our peace. We surrender a piece of our freedom. But life is far too short and far too precious to let the shadows of others occupy our thoughts. A mind consumed with someone else's behavior is a mind too tired to build its own greatness. And greatness, my dear, requires energy. It requires attention. It requires devotion to your own soul, not someone else's chaos. There will be people who walk into your life like passing winds, soft, fleeting, unpredictable. They may stir the leaves of your heart for a moment, but they are not meant to stay. When they blow away, let them go. Don't chase the wind. Don't wonder why it turned or where it went. And don't think so much about a breeze that was never meant to be a home. There will also be people who enter your life like storms, loud, demanding, destructive, unforgettable. They shake everything you thought was stable. They challenge your patience, your resilience, your ability to rise. And though you may learn lessons from their storm, you must not make a temple of their memory. Do not sit and analyze the thunder. Do not ask why the lightning flashed. Do not spend your youth trying to explain the storm's rage. When the sky clears, let it clear. Close the window. Sweep the floor. Stand tall again. But do not devote your whole strength to a storm that has already passed. You cannot think too much about anyone and still be free. Freedom requires space inside yourself. Space to breathe, to grow, to imagine, to rest. When someone else occupies that space constantly, when their actions replay in your mind like an old song you can't turn off, you become a prisoner of thoughts that do nothing but drain you. And no person, no matter how important they once were, deserves to be the warden of your peace. The truth is, most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you imagine. They are busy fighting their own battles, hiding their own fears, carrying their own secret burdens. While you sit and replay their words, they are running from their own storms. While you wonder what they meant, they are trying to survive what they never say out loud. While you think too much about them, they are hardly giving a minute to the moment that has taken so much from you. And that is all the more reason to release yourself from that burden. Do not make an altar out of someone else's behavior. Do not worship the opinions of people who cannot even manage their own souls. Your life is far bigger than their judgment. Your purpose is far higher than their approval. Your destiny is far brighter than their doubts. There will be days when your heart wants answers. Why did they change? Why did they leave? Why did they say those words? Why did they treat you that way? But sometimes the answer is simple. They acted according to who they were, not who you are. And that is enough. You do not need to solve the puzzle of someone else's spirit. You do not need to pour your energy into decoding a heart that was not open to you. When someone shows you who they are, believe what you see, accept what you experienced, and move forward without carrying the weight of explanation. Every time you think too much about someone else, You step away from yourself. You step away from your dreams. You step away from your inner voice. You step away from the quiet place where your soul whispers what it needs. A person who occupies your thoughts excessively becomes a thief, not because they stole anything deliberately, but because you handed over the key. And it is time, my dear, to take it back. There is a gentle kind of strength in detaching your mind from what no longer serves it. Detachment does not mean coldness. It does not mean resentment. It does not mean you never cared. It simply means you have chosen peace over confusion, clarity over chaos, growth over stagnation. It means you have chosen yourself. When you stop thinking too much about anyone, you return to yourself. You return to the soft places inside that were neglected. You return to the dreams that were put on pause while you replayed conversations. You return to the work that only you were born to do. You return to the truth of your own spirit, unburdened, unbent, unbroken. You must learn to trust your own value without needing someone to confirm it. You must learn to stand tall even if someone else does not see your height. You must learn to walk forward even when someone else tries to slow your steps with their silence or their inconsistency. Thinking too much about someone often comes from wanting something from them. Answers, closure, understanding, affection, validation. But the moment you stop expecting those things from them, the mind loosens, the heart softens, and the soul rises. You see, closure does not come from people. It comes from decisions. It comes from standing in front of your own reflection and saying, I deserve peace. I deserve rest. I deserve to think about my own life more than I think about someone who has not chosen to be a steady presence in mine. You may not be able to change how someone behaves, but you can change how much space you give their behavior in your mind. You may not be able to control how someone loves you, but you can control how deeply you internalize their inability. You may not be able to change their actions, but you can stop turning those actions into nightmares. You may not be able to rewrite the past, but you can stop letting it write over your future. When someone's memory tries to return, let it pass like a traveler walking through a doorway. When their image rises, do not hold it. When their voice echoes, let it fade. When the mind tries to circle back to the same question for the 100th time, interrupt it with compassion, with firmness, with self-respect. Remind yourself that you have a life to build, and that life cannot be constructed if your energy is always tied to the past. Your mind is not a storage room for other people's mistakes. Your heart is not a museum for broken moments. Your spirit is not a recycling center for old pain. You are allowed to close the door. You are allowed to move forward. You are allowed to be free, and you deserve to be. When you stop thinking too much about someone, you begin to discover yourself differently. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You feel your own rhythm returning. You become more present, more grounded, more aligned with your own path. Suddenly the world feels lighter. Suddenly the days feel brighter. Suddenly you have more room inside your spirit for joy, for hope, for new beginnings. Do not be afraid of letting go of mental attachments that tire you. Do not be afraid of finding peace in places that no longer include certain people. Do not be afraid of choosing yourself, even if others do not understand that choice. The world will always have opinions, but only you will live with the consequences of what you allow to occupy your mind. You are not meant to walk this earth as a shadow. You are not meant to dim yourself trying to understand why someone else failed to see your light. You are not meant to spend the best years of your life analyzing someone who gave you confusion instead of clarity. You are here to rise. You are here to grow. You are here to build a life that reflects your worth, not your wounds. So let them go from your mind. Release the weight of their absence. Release the stories you tell yourself about why they said what they said. Release the questions that no longer need answers. And when the thoughts come back, as they sometimes will, let them pass through you like a soft wind touching your skin, but never settling in your bones. You are bigger than the memory. You are stronger than the confusion. You are wiser than the questions. And you are deserving of a quiet mind. Do not think too much about anyone who does not bring peace into your life. The people who are meant for you will be clear, steady, consistent, present. They will not require you to decode silence or chase understanding. They will not leave you wandering in the dark. The ones who belong in your life will not make your mind a battlefield. They will make it a garden. And until those people come, give your thoughts back to yourself. Give your attention to your growth. Give your care to your healing. Give your energy to the dreams that have been waiting patiently for you. Walk through life with your head lifted, your heart steady and your mind free. Honor your journey by protecting the peace you fought to build. And when you feel yourself drifting back into the old habit of overthinking someone, remind yourself gently your mind is a home. Only those who help you grow should be allowed to stay. And in that moment, breathe deeply, stand tall, and walk forward again, knowing that your life becomes more beautiful every time you choose not to think too much about anyone who is not thinking about your well-being. There is a quiet thief that roams through the corridors of our minds, unseen but relentless, a subtle force that takes without asking and leaves us emptier than we imagined. That thief is overthinking someone, thinking so much about a person who may not even deserve the attention, who may not even recognize your devotion of thought, who may not even be present in your life in a meaningful way. It begins with a single thought, a fleeting question about why they acted a certain way, or what they might be feeling, or how they are perceiving you. But that single thought has the power to grow, to stretch and spiral, until it occupies every quiet moment in your mind, every idle hour. Every time you close your eyes, it lingers. The mind that could be filled with creation, reflection, planning, or dreaming instead becomes a field for someone else's shadows. And in that, the first cost appears, your energy. Every human being has a finite amount of mental and emotional energy, and every time you dedicate it to someone else, it is energy that is not building your own life, your own dreams, your own growth. The truth is, a mind consumed with someone else cannot focus fully on its own potential. You cannot cultivate your skills, deepen your understanding, or nurture your talents if your attention is always returning to the same person, the same conversation, the same what-ifs that never resolve. The mind has weight, and every thought carries a weight. And when you pile thought after thought about someone who may not even know or value your investment, it becomes a burden. It becomes a chain that keeps you tethered to something outside of yourself, something that cannot feed you, something that cannot grow you. Thinking too much about someone also diminishes your creativity. The imagination is a powerful tool, a force capable of turning the simplest idea into a masterpiece, capable of transforming ordinary days into extraordinary ones. But when you spend hours analyzing someone else, your imagination is redirected. It is diverted from your own possibilities into someone else's patterns, behaviors, moods, and mistakes. The stories you could write, the art you could create, the work you could complete, all of it shrinks under the weight of mental energy spent elsewhere. You may even find yourself stuck in a loop, revisiting old conversations, old misunderstandings, old moments that no longer matter, and in that loop your own progress stalls. Your emotional resilience suffers too. Each time you replay someone's words, examine their actions, or dwell on what they did or did not do, your emotional system absorbs strain. You are essentially reliving disappointments, misunderstandings, and moments of hurt. And with each replay, the hurt feels fresh, the confusion feels immediate, the attachment feels urgent. In reality, it is only urgent because you have allowed it to be. Every extra thought about someone else is like carrying a weight that was never yours to carry. You are giving your strength to an external source, surrendering the power that could be used to improve yourself. There is also the hidden cost of time. Time is not just a resource, it is life itself. Every hour spent thinking excessively about someone else is an hour not spent building the life you were meant to live. It is an hour you could have used to learn something new, to practice a skill, to connect with your own heart, to nurture your relationships with people who reciprocate your care, to pursue dreams that are waiting quietly for your attention. When you allow your mind to wander repeatedly to someone who does not prioritize your presence, time slips away silently, and unlike energy, time cannot be replenished. Once it is gone forever, leaving behind only the sense of what might have been if your focus had remained with yourself. Overthinking someone also clouds judgment. When the mind is occupied excessively by another person, your ability to make decisions becomes skewed. You start to second-guess your own instincts, your own desires, your own feelings, because your mental space is crowded with the imagined opinions, imagined reactions, and imagined judgments of someone else. Instead of acting from clarity, you act from anxiety. Instead of choosing from confidence, you choose from fear. Your growth slows because you are no longer fully in touch with what you truly need. Your mind is too distracted to discern the path that will serve your highest potential. Even your physical health can feel the strain. Mental energy is not isolated, it radiates into the body. Stress, tension, insomnia, fatigue, and restlessness all increase when your mind is persistently occupied with someone else's actions or imagined intentions. Your body becomes the home of the thoughts you nurture, and if those thoughts are unproductive, obsessive, or painful, the body absorbs that energy. Energy spent thinking about someone else cannot fuel your health, your vitality, your endurance, your ability to move forward with strength. Over time, it erodes the foundation upon which growth is built. The mind needs space, quiet, and freedom to develop, and when you surrender that space to another person unnecessarily, you sacrifice the opportunity for self-discovery. Growth is not just about learning new skills or achieving milestones. It is about understanding your own heart, your own needs, your own boundaries, your own limits, and your own capacity for love, kindness, and resilience. But how can you explore the vastness of your own spirit if someone else's presence dominates the landscape of your thoughts? Every moment spent overthinking is a moment that could have been spent on reflection, on meditation, on envisioning the life you desire, on becoming the person you were meant to become. There is also the effect on relationships with others. When you spend too much mental energy on one person who may not reciprocate or deserve it, other connections in your life suffer. Friends, family, colleagues, mentors, those who value you and your presence, receive less attention, less emotional energy, less availability. Your capacity to nurture these relationships diminishes because your mind is preoccupied with someone who may not even be aware of the impact they are having on you. In neglecting these relationships, you not only lose opportunities for joy and support, you also slow your own emotional growth, because meaningful connections with others teach us empathy, understanding, patience, and love. Growth requires focus, intention, and direction. Every person has a finite capacity for focus, and every moment of distraction is a moment of potential lost. By thinking too much about someone, you redirect your focus away from the seeds of your own potential. The thoughts you invest elsewhere could have been used to solve problems, to plan the next steps, to innovate, to nurture your inner life, to explore passions that ignite your spirit. But energy spent excessively on someone else is energy diverted. It is energy unavailable for building, creating, achieving, healing, and evolving. Ultimately, overthinking someone robs you of presence. Presence is the ability to live fully in the now, to experience life as it is, to engage with reality and the opportunities it presents. When your mind is constantly revisiting the past or projecting the future with someone else as the central figure, you are not fully present for your own life. You miss moments of inspiration, moments of connection, moments of clarity. The life you are living becomes filtered through the lens of someone else's actions, and in that your growth becomes stunted. Recognizing the cost is the first step to reclaiming your energy. Understanding that thinking too much about someone drains the vitality you need for yourself allows you to begin the practice of redirecting that energy. It is not a denial of care, nor a dismissal of importance, but an acknowledgement that your own growth is sacred, that your time, attention, and energy belong primarily to you. By choosing to shift focus back to yourself, you allow your mind the space it needs to explore, to expand, to heal, and to flourish. The process is not always easy. Habits of thought are persistent. Attachment can be strong. But each moment you consciously redirect your attention, each time you choose to invest energy in your own growth rather than in someone else's mind, you reclaim power. You cultivate strength. You nourish potential. You open doors for creativity, learning, joy, and progress. The energy once drained by overthinking becomes energy you can channel into action, into reflection, into self-love, and into meaningful development. And so the lesson becomes clear: no one deserves the toll of your energy more than you. Growth is fueled by attention, focus, and intention. And when your mind is preoccupied with someone else excessively, you are diverting the very fuel that builds your future. You cannot build a life of meaning and purpose with your energy scattered on someone else's inconsistencies, behaviors, or imagined intentions. To grow, to evolve, to realize your full potential, you must learn to hold your thoughts lightly, to release them when they no longer serve you, and to channel your energy into the fertile soil of your own becoming. There are voices that linger long after the person who spoke them has gone, echoes that echo through the hallways of the mind, filling quiet moments with noise that has no purpose, no resolution, no benefit. These are the conversations that once mattered, the words that once stung, or the moments that once seemed to define everything, yet now exist only in the chambers of memory, repeating endlessly, refusing to release their hold. And when the mind becomes a stage for these old dialogues, it cannot hold new ideas, new dreams, new possibilities. Every time you replay a conversation that no longer serves you, you drain yourself of energy, clarity, and peace, and you lose a part of the life that is waiting for you to live it fully. The mind, though vast, is not limitless. It can hold wonder, creativity, inspiration, love, and growth, but it can also become a prison if occupied by unnecessary repetition. Every conversation you replay, every imagined reply you rehearse, every what if that surfaces steals space from the present moment. The present is where life unfolds, where change begins, where opportunity knocks. Yet if your mind is crowded with yesterday's words, you cannot hear the knock, you cannot see the path. You cannot feel the movement of life flowing through you. Repetition of the old keeps you tethered, and tethered minds cannot rise. Often, these repeated conversations are about misunderstandings, betrayals, arguments, or unresolved tension. Perhaps someone spoke to you sharply, and you cannot stop turning over their words. Perhaps someone left a relationship in a way that seemed unfair, and you continue to weigh their actions as if understanding them could restore what was lost. Perhaps a kind word, a cruel remark, a casual comment, or a criticism lingers, and your mind insists on replaying it as though by repetition you might find meaning or justice. But the truth is, meaning does not always come from them. Justice does not always come from them, and holding on to those words only keeps you from your own clarity. Silencing these old conversations is not about denying their impact. It is not about pretending they did not hurt. or dismissing the significance they once held. It is about recognizing their place in your life has changed, that their relevance has expired, that their repetition serves no purpose except to keep you small, to distract you from growth, to drain the energy you could use to cultivate peace and strength. There is power in recognizing that the past, like a shadow, belongs behind you, not in front of you, not in the center of your mind. The mind is like a garden. Every thought you allow to take root grows and consumes space. When old conversations are planted again and again, they crowd out the flowers of new ideas, new experiences, new emotions. They choke the soil of possibility and prevent the seeds of tomorrow from taking hold. By learning to silence these repetitions, by refusing to let them replay endlessly, you make room for growth, for creativity, for learning, for connection. You create a mental landscape where peace can flourish, where clarity can grow, where your spirit can stretch beyond the past and embrace the present fully. There is a subtle danger in the habit of replaying old conversations. It distorts reality. When you replay a moment over and over, you begin to remember it not as it was, but as your mind interprets it now, colored by your current emotions, fears, and insecurities. You may remember tone differently, intention differently, meaning differently, until the memory becomes a story that may no longer even resemble the truth. And when your mind treats that story as reality, your responses to life are guided by something that is no longer accurate, no longer alive, no longer yours to carry. The repetition warps perception, and perception shapes the way you move through the world, the decisions you make, the way you relate to others, the way you see yourself. This habit also consumes emotional energy. Every time you turn over a conversation, you relive the emotions tied to it: anger, sadness, disappointment, regret, longing, or fear. You become tired, restless, and unsettled, and yet no resolution is achieved. The emotions are real, but the repetitive processing does not lead to healing. It leads to stagnation. And when energy is tied up in processing what no longer matters, it is unavailable for joy, for love, for creation, for meaningful action. You are left depleted, carrying emotional burdens that could be released with intention and courage. Silencing the mind requires practice, patience, and commitment. It requires recognizing when a thought is not serving you and making a conscious choice to redirect attention. It requires creating mental boundaries, deciding that not every memory, not every conversation, not every word needs to be brought forward and examined endlessly. It is not an act of coldness nor of denial, but of self-respect, self-care, and understanding the sacredness of your own mental space. You are allowed to stop the replay, to close the chapter, to refuse the rerun of someone else's words, because your mind is your own, and its primary purpose is to serve your growth, your clarity, your peace. One of the challenges in this process is the illusion that analyzing old conversations will give answers or control. We often tell ourselves that if we think hard enough, we will understand, fix, or predict outcomes. But thinking endlessly about the past does not give power. It gives repetition. It does not bring control. It brings fatigue. The answers we seek, if they are meant to come, will appear through insight, through wisdom, through acceptance, not through obsessive reruns in our mind. Repetition becomes a substitute for resolution, a way to feel productive while actually being trapped in place. Another challenge is attachment. Old conversations are tied to relationships, to people, to moments we once cared for deeply. We carry them because we are attached to what they represented. A connection, a sense of importance, a feeling of belonging, a moment of recognition. But when the connection has changed, when the moment has passed, when the person or situation no longer holds the power it once did, clinging to the conversation only keeps the attachment alive in an unhealthy way. Releasing the repetition is a step toward freedom, toward reclaiming your energy, toward allowing your mind to engage with what is present and real. The practice of silencing the mind is also a practice of presence. Presence allows you to notice what is around you, to engage fully with the people you love, to take action in the moments that matter, to experience life directly instead of through the lens of yesterday's words. Every time an old conversation begins to replay, every time the voice of the past tries to speak again, you have the opportunity to pause, acknowledge it, and choose to let it go. You redirect your attention, breathe into the present, and remind yourself that your life unfolds in real time, not in the loops of what was said before. There is strength in this discipline. It is the strength to protect your own mind from unnecessary noise, to preserve your energy for creation, growth, and healing, to maintain clarity when the world can be confusing, and to honor your own journey rather than being consumed by the journeys of others. It is strength to let the mind rest, to let old words fade, and to embrace the silence where insight and peace reside. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness of presence, fullness of awareness, fullness of freedom. By choosing to stop replaying conversations that no longer matter, you are not forgetting the past. You are learning to carry it lightly. You are honoring the lessons without letting them weigh you down. You are allowing your mind to hold what serves you and release what does not. You are making a sacred space for yourself, a space where energy, attention, and intention can flow into growth rather than stagnation. You are reclaiming your power, your focus, and your life from the grip of memory that no longer serves you. The habit of replaying old conversations is not easy to break, but with practice, it becomes a path to liberation. Each time you notice the mind turning over words that are done, each time you make a conscious choice to redirect your focus, you reinforce the understanding that your mental energy is precious, that your peace is sacred, that your growth depends on where you choose to place your attention. You begin to see how much lighter life feels, how much freer your thoughts become, how much more space there is for joy, clarity, and purpose when the old conversations are silenced and allowed to rest where they belong, in the past. There is a quiet but powerful act that changes the course of a life, an act so simple that it is often overlooked, yet so profound that it carries the weight of self-respect, courage, and freedom. That act is choosing yourself. Choosing yourself each time your mind drifts toward someone else, each time your heart lingers on their absence, each time your thoughts cling to their approval, validation, or attention. It is not arrogance to do this. It is not selfishness. It is an acknowledgement of your own worth, a declaration that your peace, your growth, your spirit, and your life belong first to you. Too often we allow the pull of someone else's presence, past, or imagined expectations to dictate how we feel, how we think, how we act, and in that surrender, we diminish our own power. Every time you choose yourself, you reclaim energy that has been quietly drained by attachment to another. Thoughts of someone else, whether real or imagined, take up space that could have been filled with inspiration, planning, joy, or reflection. When we linger on another person, our mental and emotional resources are consumed by what they said, what they did, what they might be thinking, and how they affect our lives. Each repetition of such thought is a diversion from your own life, a siphoning of your energy from where it could serve you best. To choose yourself is to recognize that your time, your focus, and your attention are precious and finite. You cannot afford to invest them endlessly in someone who may not deserve them. Choosing yourself also builds strength. The mind is a powerful tool, capable of imagining entire worlds, revisiting memories, and replaying scenarios endlessly. Without discipline, it can imprison us in a cycle of dependency and longing. By choosing yourself, you take the reins of your mind and direct your attention toward what nurtures your growth, what aligns with your goals, and what fuels your spirit. You build resilience, because you are no longer at the mercy of someone else's presence or absence. You become the anchor of your own stability. Strength grows not from avoiding thoughts of others entirely, but from returning to yourself every time they try to pull you away. Self-choice is also an act of love. To love yourself is to honor your needs, your boundaries, and your aspirations. When thoughts begin to cling to another person, it is often because we are seeking affirmation, connection, or understanding outside of ourselves. It is natural to care, to desire, to hope, but the measure of your love for yourself is how quickly and consistently you can return to your own center. By choosing yourself, you demonstrate that your value is not dependent on someone else's recognition, that your peace is not negotiable, and that your life is not controlled by another's actions or inactions. There is freedom in self-choice. When the mind clings to someone else, it is trapped in loops of what if, why, and how, revisiting scenarios that may have no solution and replaying conversations that cannot be changed. The attachment steals presence, blurs clarity, and clouds judgment. Each time you bring your focus back to yourself, you release that mental grip, you reclaim the present, and you open space for possibilities that are real, that are actionable, and that belong to you. Freedom is not merely the absence of restraint, it is the presence of clarity, purpose, and the conscious ability to direct your own thoughts and actions. Choosing yourself is not a one-time event, it is a continuous practice. The mind has habits, and old patterns of attachment are persistent. Every time your thoughts drift towards someone else, it is an opportunity to practice returning to your own life. Every time your heart lingers on someone's absence or imagined presence, it is a moment to choose your own company, your own joy, your own peace. Over time, this practice transforms not only your mental landscape, but your very way of being in the world. You begin to see that you are enough, that you are complete, and that no external attachment is necessary to validate your existence or to fuel your growth. There is also clarity in self-choice. When we cling to someone else mentally or emotionally, we often obscure our own needs, desires, and priorities. We may make decisions based on their approval, predict their reactions, or mold ourselves to fit perceived expectations. Choosing yourself restores the lens of clarity, allowing you to see what truly matters to you, what paths serve your purpose, and what actions align with your values. You no longer act from fear of loss or desire for acceptance, you act from awareness, intention, and alignment with your own life. Self-choice nurtures growth because it shifts energy from external validation to internal cultivation. When we dwell on others, we are essentially outsourcing our sense of worth, happiness, and progress to someone else's thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. Growth requires internal investment, deliberate action, and consistent focus. By choosing yourself, you redirect that energy toward building skills, exploring passions, deepening understanding, and embracing experiences that expand your mind and heart. You become the gardener of your own potential rather than a spectator in someone else's drama. The practice of choosing yourself also strengthens boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but structures to protect your mental and emotional space. Every time your thoughts cling to someone else unnecessarily, it is a boundary breach. Your mind is surrendering to external influence, whether conscious or not. Choosing yourself is a reformation of those boundaries, a conscious decision to protect your inner life, and a commitment to honor your own priorities over the pull of someone who cannot or will not meet you on your level. Even the body benefits from self-choice. Mental preoccupation with another person often manifests as tension, stress, fatigue, or restlessness. When the mind is at peace, the body follows. By choosing yourself, you release emotional burdens that have no place in your life, allowing energy to flow into creativity, action, healing, and vitality. You strengthen not only your spirit but also your capacity to engage fully with the present, to seize opportunities, and to nurture meaningful relationships that align with your values and aspirations. Choosing yourself is an act of courage, because it requires confronting attachment, desire, and habit. It requires saying no to the comfort of familiar mental patterns, to the illusion of control over someone else, to the false notion that their thoughts, actions, or presence can define your worth. Courage is standing in your own light, even when your mind wants to linger in the shadow of another. Courage is claiming your energy, your focus, and your life every single time you feel pulled away by someone else's memory, influence, or imagined expectation. The mind will resist. It will whisper doubts, rehearse old conversations, imagine alternative outcomes, and replay the same scenarios over and over. Choosing yourself is not about silencing the mind forcibly, but about cultivating awareness and redirecting attention. It is a gentle but firm assertion. I belong to myself. My energy is mine. My life is mine. Over time, this practice grows stronger, and the mind begins to follow the lead of your conscious choice, gradually releasing the grip of thoughts that cling unnecessarily and freeing you to experience life as it is, not as it is colored by someone else's presence or absence. Each time you choose yourself, you build a foundation for lasting freedom, clarity, and growth. You reinforce the understanding that while others may come and go, your relationship with yourself is constant, sacred, and foundational. You strengthen the connection to your own spirit, your own dreams, and your own potential. You cultivate resilience in the face of external influence, wisdom in navigating attachment, and peace in holding your mind and heart accountable to yourself first. By choosing yourself consistently, you create a life where your energy is invested in what serves you, where your thoughts are aligned with your growth, and where your heart and mind are guided by your own inner compass. You step out of the orbit of someone else's influence. You release the hold of imagined expectations, and you enter a space where your potential can flourish, where your joy can expand, and where your life becomes a reflection of your own choices, values, and priorities. There is a liberation that comes when we stop holding on to the echoes of someone who has already left, a release so profound that it touches the mind, the heart, and the very core of our being. Too often, we carry people in our thoughts long after they have departed, replaying their words, their actions, their decisions as if understanding or remembering them could bring them back. But the truth is that those who walk away leave behind not only absence, but also a choice for us to remain anchored to their memory, or to reclaim ourselves and step into freedom. When we continue to replay their presence, their behavior, or their absence, we tether ourselves to the past, and tethered souls cannot rise. Freedom begins the moment we stop turning over their steps in our minds and choose to walk forward unburdened. Every thought that returns to someone who has already gone consumes energy that could be devoted to living, growing, and thriving. The mind has a finite capacity, and each repetition of their voice, each recollection of their choices, and each imagined interaction occupies space that could be filled with new ideas, experiences, and possibilities. We often believe that analyzing their departure or revisiting moments will give clarity or closure, yet in reality, it only deepens attachment, fuels longing, and prolongs pain. Every mental replay is a tether, a chain that binds us to a moment that no longer belongs to our present. The process of letting go is not about denial or pretending that they never mattered. It is not about erasing memory or dismissing the value they once held in our lives. It is about recognizing that their chapter has ended, and that the continuation of their story in our minds serves no purpose except to drain the vitality we need for our own journey. Life does not pause for anyone who has walked away, and neither should our hearts. By choosing to stop replaying their memory, we reclaim the energy, clarity, and attention that was quietly being consumed, and in that reclamation, we find the first glimpse of true freedom. We replay people in our minds for many reasons. Sometimes it is guilt, sometimes hope, sometimes unresolved questions, sometimes the inability to accept the finality of absence. We imagine conversations that never happened. We rehearse apologies that were never offered. We construct outcomes that may never come to pass. And in these mental recreations, we live partially outside of reality, held in suspension by the memory of someone who has already moved on. The mind becomes a stage for rehearsals of loss, and the soul bears the weight of energy spent on scenes that no longer exist. Letting go requires courage. It is a conscious decision to step out of the orbit of someone else's influence and reclaim your autonomy. Courage is needed because the heart often resists absence, clinging to memory as if the act of remembering could restore what has been lost. Courage is needed because it demands confronting the emptiness left behind, facing the silence that follows departure, and acknowledging the truth that some things cannot be changed, no matter how much attention or thought we devote. But within that courage lies empowerment, the power to redirect our focus, to reclaim our energy, and to allow our lives to be guided by presence, not absence. Freedom is not only the absence of someone else, it is the presence of ourselves. The moment we stop replaying someone who has walked away, we allow our minds to return to the present. We notice the world around us, the people who are still here, the opportunities still available, and the dreams waiting for action. Energy once drained by memory is redirected to creation, reflection, and growth. The space once occupied by the past becomes fertile ground for new experiences, new connections, and new understanding. We discover that the present holds richness and possibility that our attachment to absence could never provide. There is also clarity in stopping the replay. When the mind continually revisits someone who has left, perception becomes clouded. Memories are colored by emotion, longing, or resentment, and the past is no longer remembered as it truly was. We may magnify moments of joy, exaggerate moments of pain, or reinterpret events to fit our current feelings. Clinging to these mental reenactments distorts reality and clouds judgment, making it difficult to see what is truly happening in the present or what is truly available to us. Freedom begins when we release the distortion and allow life to be experienced as it is, not as it is filtered through absence and longing. There is a quiet peace that emerges from this practice. Peace does not mean forgetting, and it does not mean never caring. Peace means that your mind is no longer a battlefield, that your heart is not constantly rehearsing absence, that your energy is no longer consumed by someone who cannot return it. In peace, we find the space to hear our own desires, to follow our own path, to cultivate our own potential. It is a sacred restoration of focus, intention, and vitality. When we stop replaying the past, we are no longer prisoners of memory but custodians of our own lives. Emotional resilience grows when we let go. Each time we resist replaying someone who has departed, we strengthen our capacity to hold ourselves steady, to endure absence without collapsing into longing, and to maintain equilibrium in the face of separation. Repetition fosters dependency. Release fosters strength. By choosing not to replay, we practice trust in our own ability to live fully, to navigate life with composure, and to honor our own well-being first. Resilience is not built through clinging to what is gone, but through embracing what is within our power to experience, shape, and grow. Mental energy also becomes available for new beginnings. Thoughts of someone who has walked away often occupy the space where innovation, creativity, and insight could reside. When we release that mental hold, we find the capacity to imagine new possibilities, take decisive action, and pursue goals that have been waiting patiently for our focus. Energy that was once siphoned away by attachment becomes fuel for life, growth, and transformation. The present becomes a canvas upon which we can paint with clarity, confidence, and intention. The practice of stopping the replay is also an act of self-respect. It communicates silently and powerfully that your time, attention, and energy are yours first. By refusing to dwell endlessly on someone who has already chosen to leave, you affirm that your life, your thoughts, and your heart have priority. You honor yourself by protecting your mental space, safeguarding your emotional well-being, and asserting that no one outside your life has the right to occupy your inner world indefinitely. Self-respect is the foundation of freedom, and choosing to release memory is one of the most profound expressions of that respect. We may find temptation in old habits. The mind will try to draw back into the past, replay familiar patterns, and revisit old attachments. It may whisper longing, rehearse regret, or imagine possibilities that can no longer exist. The strength lies in noticing these impulses and redirecting attention deliberately, consciously choosing to place our focus where it serves us, where it nurtures our growth, and where it allows our lives to unfold without interference. Every intentional redirection reinforces freedom, clarity, and the understanding that we are the authors of our own mental and emotional space. Freedom also deepens our capacity for connection with what remains. When we stop replaying someone who has left, we become more present with those who are still here, those who care for us, those who can meet us in reciprocity and understanding. Attention once wasted on absence becomes attention available for meaningful interaction, compassion, and shared growth. We strengthen bonds that are alive and present rather than obsessing over what can never return. The heart and mind are freed to nurture relationships, experiences, and ambitions that are real, tangible, and enriching. The act of letting go is not instantaneous. It is a practice, a habit, a discipline that requires attention, patience, and persistence. Each time the mind drifts toward someone who has walked away, it is an opportunity to exercise this practice, to return to the present, to reclaim energy, and to strengthen the habit of freedom. Over time, the act becomes natural, and the mind is less inclined to replay absence, leaving space for life, growth, creativity, and joy. Liberation is found not in denial, but in repeated intentional choices to live in the present and prioritize the self